What is going on, everyone? It is me, the Lone Vault Wanderer, here with a Star Wars video, which is really weird. I don't think I've ever done a Star Wars video on my channel, and truth be told, I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan. I like the movies, and I've played like a couple of games in the past, but really, I'm going to say at the start, I'm not a huge Star Wars fan, right? However, Star Wars Battlefront 2 seems like it's going to be a game that I will pick up because I'm a bit of a mark for just great stories and good single-player campaigns and games, not so much multiplayer nowadays. And because Star Wars Battlefront 2 is going to be having a single-player campaign, it seems like something that I just enjoy, to be honest, because I still have an interest in the Star Wars franchise. And of course, with the original Star Wars Battlefront not having a single-player campaign, and now to Star Wars Battlefront 2 having a single-player campaign, a lot of people are asking the question whether the campaign's actually going to be good. Is it going to be decent? Is it going to be a lackluster story? Are they actually going to be focusing on it? And by the looks of the trailer, it seems like they are. It seems like it's going to be a core focus of the game. And trust me, even though I'd never played the original Battlefront, I saw all of the comments and criticisms with regards to that game in terms of not having enough content. Again, especially because it didn't have a single player campaign. So the fact that it has one now is a good sign. However, just because it has a single player campaign doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be automatically good. It needs to have a good campaign, it needs to have a good story in particular, because we are working with Star Wars here. That's a long-established franchise with a lot of history behind it, a lot of movies behind it as well. So especially because of that, I don't think hardcore fans and long-time fans of the Star Wars series are going to accept a lackluster single-player campaign with an average story. However, this is where the news that I'll be talking about in this video comes in and is very, very relevant. And this is kind of where my connection is with this particular story and why I believe I can talk to it. Because last week it was revealed that one of the writers for the single-player campaign for Star Wars Battlefront 2 is Walt Williams. And some of you might be asking, well, who the fuck is Walt Williams? Why do I care? Why should I care? Particularly if I'm curious as to whether this single-player campaign is going to be good, or at least has the potential to be good. Well, Walt Williams is actually one of the writers behind Spec Ops: The Line. He was credited as its narrative designer. And of course, it's a game that I've played and I feel like I can talk to, potentially in its relevance to Star Wars Battlefront's 2 campaign. And particularly why I think the hiring of Walt, who I think is an amazing writer based on his work in Spec Ops: The Line, is a huge coup for EA in the Star Wars games franchise, 1. And 2, I believe because of his addition to the writing of the game's story, I believe it has the potential to be absolutely fucking incredible. And I'm not just speaking out my ass when I say this. The reason why I say it is because if you've played Spec Ops: The Line, you'll know exactly what I mean. Now, overall, the game wasn't particularly amazing, right? If you look on Metacritic, it has about a 76 Metascore, and it was only reviewed by 16 critics, so it somewhat went under the radar. And from my experience of it, it's not really the gameplay I remember, it's not really the level design or anything like that that I remember or that stays in my mind. It was a solid shooter all around, but that's not what stands out to me. What was amazing about Spec Ops: The Line was its story and was its narrative, and again, Walt Williams played a huge part in that as its narrative designer and as a writer of the game's story. Spec Ops: The Line's story was absolutely incredible. It was a phenomenal game in terms of its narrative and in terms of the way it actually told a story. And I'll admit, I'm typically a bit of a mark when it comes to great story in games. I usually prefer games with great story over games with great gameplay, for instance. So that's where my biases lie, but nevertheless, me admitting that to you, you can be aware of it. But I really love this game because of its story. And I'm not going to give any story spoilers here, of course, but I'll just explain it in a loose way. But the game had this incredible ability in terms of presenting this illusion of choice, in terms of making you feel like you are in control in the game whenever you made a decision, whenever you made a choice of some sort. I mean, when you first look at it, it seems like any run-of-the-mill first-person shooter that's telling a typical war story. And that's kind of the impression you get, not just by looking at the game externally, but when you start playing. And then it starts presenting you a choice and you think, yeah, I'm in control, I'm doing everything. And also as well, it makes you think like you're the good guy and you're doing the right thing, and the choices and decisions that it presents to you that you have to make, it makes you feel like you are making the right choice and you're doing the right things. But that couldn't be further from the truth. What the game is actually about is about the harsh realities of war. and about how either way, there simply are no winners. You might think you're the good guy, you might think you're making the right decisions, you might think that you're just a soldier and you're being told and ordered what to do, but the game has a really amazing way of fucking with your head and making you feel like a terrible person, making you feel like you are the bad guy. The story is just told in a brilliant way, especially in terms of its choices, and it has multiple endings as well, so you can go back and play and see how different choices would have played out the game differently. But in the end, no matter what, it's meant to teach you a lesson about the incredible harsh realities of war, and it does that by making you feel bad about it. It honestly does. So yes, I absolutely adore Spec Ops: The Line because of its great story and because of its great narrative, and I think this is something that Star Wars fans, and in particular fans that are looking forward to Battlefront 2 single player, to be aware of and to take note that Walt Williams, the guy behind this amazing game Spec Ops: The Line in terms of its narrative and story again, is going to be one of the writers, one of the lead writers it seems as well, behind Star Wars Battlefront's 2 main campaign. Just by having him on board, I believe, is giving the game so much potential to have an amazing story, to have an amazing single player. The gunplay, the gameplay, etc. will be in the hands of other people, but in terms of Walt Williams and his credentials and his work with Spec Ops: The Line, I think the game's story has the potential to be absolutely amazing, and this should please Star Wars fans, it really should. So I do encourage you, play Spec Ops: The Line, see what Walt Williams is capable of, and that might give you a good indication of where the story in Star Wars is going to end up in Battlefront 2. So anyways, Wastelanders, that's all from me. This is probably the only video I'm ever going to do on Star Wars Battlefront 2, but I wanted to talk about it because of my experiences with Spec Ops: The Line, and because that game I think has an amazing story. I wanted to share that information with you now. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Are you going to be picking up Battlefront 2? Are you looking forward to the game's single player? I'd love to hear it. And until next time, this has been the Lone Vault Wanderer. Please take care of yourself, and would you kindly keep fighting the good fight.